On April 8th, 1974, a true American hero was born in Odessa, Texas. This boy would be named Chris Kyle, and he'd become one of the deadliest snipers in American military history. Chris Kyle would rack up an astonishing 160 confirmed kills, and while doing this, he'd save thousands of American soldiers' lives. So today, I'll tell you this man's story, because Chris Kyle is a true American hero. In my speech today, I'll cover with you three main points. First, how Chris Kyle worked hard during his early years. Second, how Chris Kyle was a respected military sniper. And third, how Chris Kyle served after his time in the SEALs. It's hard to believe that a hero like this can still be human. So in my first main point, I will tell you how Chris Kyle worked hard during his early years. In a website titled Chris Kyle American Sniper, was told about Chris, the movie, and a foundation started in his honor. This website is dedicated to Chris, his family, and the brave few that died for us. This website tells us how Chris grew up defending others. When Chris was very young, he had a love for guns. He learned to shoot around the same time that he learned to read and write. And by the time he was 8, Chris's dad bought him his own Springfield rifle, and soon after bought him a shotgun. Chris used these two guns to do all of his hunting, everything from quail and pheasant all the way up to deer. But in another article published on Chris Kyle, American Sniper, we're told how Chris found his way to the SEALs. Chris, he had a love for sports when he was younger. He played football and baseball. This is where he learned a lot of his dedication in life. But soon after, he started getting in a lot of fights. Of course, he wasn't starting these fights. He was finishing them while he was defending others. And from there, Chris Kyle became a pro bareback rider until he shattered his arm and had to have pins put in to hold it back together. But one day, Chris found himself walking through the local mall when a Navy recruiter stopped him. The Navy recruiter tried to get him to sign up, but Chris said the only way he would ever sign up is if he could do something cool like Special Forces. In my first main point, I told you about how Chris Kyle was hardworking in his early years. But in my second main point, I'll tell you about the next stage in Chris's life. Chris Kyle, the respected military sniper. In an article published in 2015 on biography.com, we're told about Chris's time in the military. While Chris served in the military, he served on SEAL Team 3, where he served 10 years, and he received 2 silver stars and 5 bronze stars. And while doing, he was so proficient at his job and so feared that the local people in Iraq called him the Devil of Ramadi, and eventually an $80,000 bounty was placed on Chris's head. But in another article published on Chris Kyle, American Sniper, we were told about Chris's time as a Navy SEAL. Well, what a lot of people don't know about Chris is that he had a hard time passing buds. In fact, if it wasn't for the embarrassment of having to walk all the way up to ring the bell, we probably wouldn't have the hero that we have today. But after Chris passed buds training, he became a SEAL, and he served 4 tours in Iraq. His first was in 2003 in the invasion of Iraq. His second was in 2004 in the Battle of Fallujah. His third was in 2006 in Ramadi, and his fourth and final tour was in Baghdad in 2008. And while doing these tours, he racked up an astonishing 160 kills, which is the most in American military history, but his number is closer to 250 if you count his unconfirmed kills. My second main point, I told you about Chris's life as a Navy SEAL, but I don't believe that this is Chris's greatest accomplishment in life, which leads me to my third point, how Chris Kyle served after his time in the SEALs. In an article published on Salon.com, we're told about how Chris Kyle suffered from combat stress. This all came about after his 4th tour when he underwent a physical. There he was diagnosed with combat stress. And after many sleepless nights, Chris Kyle was able to overcome this and find his way back into society when he started his own security agency, which he protected some very important people, including Sarah Palin and even the 2012 London Olympics. His company was so good that they were even hired to provide protection for ships from Somali pirates. But in another article published on HollywoodReporter.com, we're told about the day that Chris Kyle died. On February 2nd, 2013, Chris Kyle pulled up to a house in Lancaster, Texas, where he picked up a man by the name of Eddie Ray Ralph. This man was a former Marine who suffered from PTSD. Chris planned on taking him to the shooting range where they met Chris's friend Chad Littlefield. From there, they planned to do target shooting to capture Eddie's warrior spirit. But soon after they started target shooting, everything went terribly wrong when Eddie Ray Ralph turned the gun on Chris Kyle and Chad Littlefield, shooting them both in the back and killing them. In my third main point, I told you how Chris Kyle was an amazing person and how he was willing to help people up into his last breath. But let's review on what I told you about today. Today, I told you how Chris Kyle grew up a warrior and how he is never afraid to stand up for others no matter what the odds. And how Chris grew up to become the deadliest sniper in American military history. And the most important point, how Chris Kyle was a hero even after his time in the SEALs. But Chris Kyle, he always tried to help people and strive to do that in everything he did. And I challenge you to do that in everything that you do too. Help people whenever you get the chance, even if it's something as simple as holding a door or giving someone a hand up when they need it. But Chris Kyle was a true American hero. If you don't remember anything else about my speech today, I hope you remember this point. Thank you.